My mother-in-law, good cook, except bland. So whenever, yes, it was very good, but when she did a soup or so, where is the salt? Where is the salt or the pepper? Now, it doesn't mean the flavor was not there, but salt enhances the flavor. So salt is not flavor in itself. So salt brings out the flavor and makes it more wow, more wonderful. And I think that's what Jesus means when he says, you are the salt of the earth. That we are to bring out the flavor, we're to be the spice, we're to bring things alive and make them more palatable and make them more shine and more beautiful, just more tangible and bring them out. So salt, and as we have just heard from Wendy in the children's message, salt was very valuable. Actually, the word salary comes from salt, because at some point, salt was so valuable like currency. You could get paid in salt, salary. And if someone is worthy of their salt, you know, they're real and true. So they're the essence of their being. They're worthy of that salt. So salt was used for seasoning, it was used for preserving, and it was used also for healing. Now, you should never rub salt in a wound, you know that. But even today, when you go and have a wound and it's being irrigated and cleaned out, it's usually a saline fluid, liquid, to clean it out and also to disinfect it a little bit with that. So basically, Jesus saying, you're the salt of the earth, you're really valuable. You're important, you're a key ingredient. So bring that out, make it visible, and be your best self wherever you are. I think a little bit similar with the light. And what really matters to me in this passage, you're the light of the world, what matters to me is no electricity, no cold light. So if you had a light at that time, it was some kind of burning oil lamp. And usually, if you have a flame, something is burning. It's not just light, it's also heat. It's also warmth. There is this softness, the warmth of a lamp, of a candle, of an oil lamp, or of a fire. So some of my favorite memories from church camp or from going camping, being out, is always the campfire, the fire at the center where we are warmed. And I think that's an invitation for us to come to the center, to come to the light of Christ, to be warmed, and then to reflect that. One of my favorite services, well, Christmas Eve. Obviously, we hold the candle and looking not just at the candle, but I often look at your faces when you hold the candle. And it is a glowing, it's a reflecting, it's the warmth, it's the beauty that we are reflecting. And I think that's what Jesus wants us to do and who he wants us to be. Now, the Old Testament prophets, or the Hebrew scripture, this is all the same. Some call it the Old Testament. The Hebrew scripture is because it was written in Hebrew, or some call it the First Testament versus the New Testament. Sometimes I don't call it Old Testament because it's almost like, oh, it's old, it's not so important. It is key. It's very important. The Old Testament was Jesus' Bible. So Jesus lived by the Old Testament. That was his Bible. And as valuable as it was to him, it is to us too. So coming to the essence of the Old Testament, we have the law, or you think of the good way of living, and then we have the prophets, and then we have the scriptures, the Psalms, and the wisdom literature. So when you come to the prophets, they always lift up the passage, say, have a heart. What does that mean? Have some warmth. Be kind. As last Sunday we heard, do justice, love kindness, walk humbly with your God. So this kindness, the warm-heartedness, have a heart. And they describe the people who forgot God, who are not compassionate, who kind of miss God's path. They always describe them as hard-hearted, or have a heart of rock or of stone. And we need somehow often a little bit of warmth or more of that, not just in our lives, but in our communities, in our nation. And so the invitation, I think, from Jesus is be warm-hearted, be kind. Let your light not just shine, but warm the world around you. Where is your compassion? I love the saying. Someone said, love in our closer relationships is tenderness. So when there is a kindness, a tenderness, a warmth in us, that's love in a private sphere. Love in the public sphere is justice. Makes so much sense, doesn't it? Justice is love in the public sphere. So where and how do you see that unfold, or where do you notice the lack of that? And just like last Sunday's scripture reading, Isaiah 58, the one we heard today, sums it up and says, your worship or your fast, your connection with God, doesn't matter how many songs you sing, how many scriptures you read, how much you do all of that. Not necessarily bad, but what really matters is how you treat the people who are vulnerable, who are hurting, who are down on their luck. Do you have a heart for them? How do you treat them? That's the invitation here. And it reminds me a lot about what Jesus said. What you do to the least of these, the hungry, those who need clothes, who are imprisoned, those who are grieving, those are the ones whom Jesus calls us to serve and to look for Jesus in them and to lift them up. That is what it really is about. And that's the core and the heart of the gospel. That's the core and the heart of the prophets, and that's the core and the heart of who we are meant to be. So, how do we do that? I love this Catholic images, and it came back to me. I actually had a dream where I dreamed of a heart, and the heart had a flame with it, and the heart had a cross with it. It reminded me a lot of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. So when you see paintings or depictions of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, what does it look like? Well, it's a heart, red, warm, and it's radiating. It has this warmth, it's the shining, and usually you see the rays emanating from the heart of Jesus. And when you see saints, pictures, icons of saints, what do you see? The halos. It's the radiating light of Christ that is shining through them that they reflect. So the Sacred Heart of Jesus is an invitation for us. Have a heart. Have a heart. How you treat people matters. Have a heart. I love the demonstrations that went on in Eastern Europe in December 89, so 1989, in Eastern Germany, Eastern Republic, the Democratic Republic, how it was called. And they gathered for devotions on Monday nights. These were always Monday nights devotions. They met in the churches. They did their devotion, they did their service and all. And then also lit candles inside. And then the people walked out with the candles in one hand and with the other hand to protect the candle, the light, from the wind, from the weather, from whatever was outside. And there is something about walking with a candle, walking and singing with a candle, and walking in peaceful ways, to shine the light, to have a heart to reflect that, and to call the officials to do the same thing. We know the people in our lives who did radiate, who did shine, who did love, don't we? We all know them. How do you shine? How do we reflect the light of the world? Where and how do you have a heart and call others out to have a heart too?